The war on China's economy, why the West is scared to death. What if I told you the greatest threat to China's economy isn't its real estate bubble, demographics, or falling foreign investment? What if the biggest pressure on China isn't internal at all, but a deliberate campaign of economic warfare waged by the United States? This isn't speculation, it's the reality that most Western media won't tell you. And today, we're diving deep into a different perspective, one offered by someone who's been on the front lines of global policy debates for decades. Because while headlines scream about China's economic collapse, the real story unfolding is one of high-stakes power politics, misinformation, and a global shift the West is desperate to stop. Let's begin. If you care about the real story behind China's economy, not just the headlines, make sure to stick around. And if you find this valuable, hit that like button, it really helps. For more than 2 decades, China has accounted for nearly 30% of global economic growth. 30%. That's not just remarkable, it's historic. Yet, from the Financial Times to the Atlantic Council, there's a recurring narrative. Sound familiar? That's because it is. These doomsday forecasts about China's collapse have been echoing since the 1990s. Remember the 1997 Asian financial crisis? That was supposed to be the end. Then came the 2008 global crash, COVID-19, evergreen tech crackdowns, you name it. Every few years someone declares this is China's downfall. But here's what Sachs sees. Not a country in decline, but a state achieving exactly what the West hoped it never would. Technological leadership and global influence. China isn't failing, it's innovating, fast. While America still lacks a single kilometer of high-speed rail, China has built tens of thousands and now exports that technology across the world. It's pioneering 5.5G. That's not a typo. China is working on technology that makes today's 5G look like dial-up. And in zero-carbon energy, from renewables to next-gen nuclear, China is leaving the West in the dust. It's not just producing solar panels, it's dominating the entire green tech value chain. This isn't a country throttling innovation, it's one racing ahead. But if that's true, why the narrative of crisis? Because this isn't about economics, it's about geopolitics. To understand what's happening to China, look back to the 1980s. Japan was booming. American semiconductors, automakers, and electronics firms were losing ground. Washington panicked. The response? Forced Japan to revalue its currency, cap its exports, and let's be honest, kneecap its growth. It worked. Japan's economy slowed, its asset bubble burst, and the West breathed a sigh of relief. Fast forward to today. China is bigger, faster, more independent, and crucially not under US military protection like Japan was. So the old playbook is back. Trump imposed tariffs. Biden kept them. Export bans followed, especially in advanced chips, investment restrictions, tech blacklists. The real US complaint? China has overcapacity. Translation: China is too good at building the future. And now, the US is watching as China expands its reach through the Belt and Road Initiative, building railroads in Africa, ports in Pakistan, data networks across Central Asia. This isn't just trade, it's soft power, infrastructure diplomacy, and a vision for a world no longer dictated by Washington or Brussels. So the West calls it debt trap diplomacy. The Belt and Road becomes a threat. Yet, as Sachs puts it, when the US starts badmouthing something that aggressively, it's probably working. Take electric vehicles. 10 years ago, China had 400 EV startups. Today, it's the global leader. More than 40% of new cars sold in China are electric. And the quality? World-class. BYD now outsells Tesla in some markets. Chinese EVs are flooding Europe, not because of subsidies or coercion, but because they're cheaper, better, and greener. So what happens? Europe imposes tariffs. The US imposes tariffs. This isn't a response to failure, it's retaliation against success. Of course, Western media has its counterpoints. Foreign investment in China is dropping, youth unemployment is up, local governments are buried in debt, China is aging, all true. But also, superficial. According to Sachs, these are challenges, but not collapse indicators. They're growing pains. And some, like China's shrinking population, might even boost per capita income over time. In fact, when Beijing sees a bubble, like in real estate, it doesn't wait. It pricks it, intentionally. Try imagining Washington doing that with Wall Street. This isn't a country in denial. It's one recalibrating. The real health of an economy isn't measured by how many foreign investors flood in. It's whether your kids are getting educated, whether new technologies are being born, whether you can invest in your own future. And China? High saving rates, world-class education, rapid innovation, low-cost production of cutting-edge tech. Compare that to the US, record deficits, political chaos, decaying infrastructure, and a collapsing middle class. So again, who's the economy in crisis? As Sachs sees it, the West is clinging to a Cold War mindset. There's only one right way to run an economy, one true model, one legitimate leader of the global system. But the world isn't playing by those rules anymore. China doesn't want to become the next America. It wants to build its own future, with its own rules. That threatens the old order, and that's why the attacks are coming fast and loud. 10 years ago, China declared it would master key 21st century technologies, AI, robotics, green energy, biotech. That scared Washington more than anything else. Because they weren't just talking, they did it. And now, in the halls of power, from Brussels to Capitol Hill, there's a new consensus. China's model works. And that makes it dangerous. But here's the twist. The more the West tries to isolate China, the more the rest of the world gravitates toward it. Southeast Asia, Latin America, Africa, Central Asia, they aren't buying the collapse narrative. They're buying Chinese infrastructure, tech, and investment. And as BRICS expands and alternative financial systems emerge, a new world economy is forming. One where Washington isn't the center of gravity. This isn't about GDP growth rates. This is about the birth of a new global system. China is shifting from quantity to quality, from export-led to innovation-led growth. And despite real challenges, debt, demographics, demand, it's still hitting 5% growth. The West says that's failure. But if a self-managed real estate correction, global tech leadership, and 5% growth equals failure, what does that make the rest of us? The war over China's economy isn't really about China. It's about the global balance of power, about who writes the rules for the 21st century. And the louder the West screams collapse, the clearer it becomes. They're just afraid it won't. If this made you rethink what you've been told about China, give it a like. It tells the algorithm this story matters. Drop a comment below. Do you think the West is scared of China's success? Or is Beijing really overreaching? And subscribe for more no BS breakdowns of global power, economics, and the hidden dynamics shaping our world.